back to the channel. This episode is going to be a little bit different than I originally anticipated. I was originally planning on unveiling the motor that we were going to use for the truck, but instead we're going to show the mock-up motor that we're going to use for the truck. What you see here is a L83 5.3 liter aluminum block Gen 5 motor from Chevrolet. As you can tell, it is now in pieces. Originally, when we were looking at this thing, it was a real good deal. It was originally like 300 bucks, and the reason we were told that it was 300 bucks was because it had a bad lifter in it and it wiped out the camshaft, which we didn't care about. Unfortunately, whatever happened after the lifter went bad, they didn't feel they needed to tell us. So it looks like this thing was bouncing around the back of a truck bed with no heads on it, and just, I don't know, it just got jacked up. The sealing surfaces on the motor, not on this side. One of these sides has a big old scratch through it. You'd have to deck the heads 30-something thousands. And I'm pretty sure that one of the rods is gone. So the rod with the bad lifter also has a bent rod. So yeah, basically this motor is going to be a welding fixture and sort of just an experimentation to see what these Gen 5s are all about. We can use it for making motor mounts. We can use it, make it for turbo flanges. We can use it, maybe take that oil sump and do some work with it and modify it for what we want. But this motor will probably not run in this truck. So what I'm gonna do next is we're gonna get torn down a little bit, washed up, and then start tearing it down. I got the worst of the loose oil and stuff off the motor, just simple green to give a little pressure wash, and get it torn down real quick before it starts rusting out or rusting over. Like I said, this motor's hurt. I'm not going to use most of these parts. So if you see me like tearing stuff apart and you're like, that's not how you do it. I know, I've built plenty of motors, but this one was like 200 bucks and I'm not going to use it. So it's basically a welding fixture. So let's get it torn down and see what these Gen 5s are all about.
Perfect.
Okay, so we got all the slugs out. Generally speaking, the bores seem decent for the most part, but they definitely sat in a couple spots, and there's a ridge in a couple of them. So if this motor was going to be used, it might be able to get away with like a dingleberry hone and some fresh rings, but it really should be bored over to 3.80. And this scratch here is why I'm not going to use it. So not because obviously a scratch ruins a block, but it's just, why machine everything when you can get a good to go motor for 1,100 bucks. So there was a bent rod. Number 5 was bent. So it looks like the one with the bad lifter. You can see here, GM did not put that profile in it from the factory on purpose. So yeah, that one's bent. So overall, looking good, but it's definitely a fixture motor. All right, so we got the pistons out of there, went, ate dinner, spent some time with the family. I'm gonna divert my attention briefly to this. I didn't show you guys on camera, but I did get these gussets welded in. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reattach all the front suspension and front crossmember. So all the mounting tab work and everything up here is done for a while. We'll need to put coilover brackets and stuff later, but that's gonna be a long way down the road, and I just wanna get the shop sort of cleaned up. So we're better to put this stuff than on the truck. So there you have it, guys. That is pretty much the front suspension. Obviously, we need to get the spindles. We got Willwood Pro spindles that will be going here with a 2-inch drop spindle. Coilovers. We're gonna be running QA1 coilovers into probably a hoop or a straddle. I'm not sure yet. Need to get that figured out. But for now, I just wanted to get parts off the shop floor and back on the truck. And I'm really loving the look of this front end. So yeah, we got good steering rack clearance right here. So if you look, we got clear the frame and the drop, clear the front cross member, got nice travel here. For anybody that's worked on custom front suspension, it's tough to make everything fit. So CAD helps a lot. And right now what we have is we have the front suspension set up at an 8-degree caster. So you see the major setback there. That's the 8 degrees worth of caster that will go in. And then we have almost a 1/2 inch of anti-dive over 6 inches, which I forget how many degrees that is, but it's 1/2 inch over 6 inches. So yeah, it's looking good. I don't know. That's probably it for the front suspension for now. Need to get a rear on order, the housing at least, and keep moving with this chassis. It's definitely moving along faster than anticipated. All right, guys, so we are currently taking off work. I took a half day and I'm driving out to Ohio to pick up another motor. So you saw just a couple minutes ago tearing down a motor partially, and then I basically found out that, hey, the block surfaces and head surfaces on this thing aren't doing very good. They're all scratched up. But for the most part, the internals were good. There was a bent rod, which obviously we're not going to use, but the crank seemed like it's in good shape. It looks clean, and 7 of the rods are good, 7 of the pistons are good. The 8th piston's probably good, but you never want to run one that's been on a bent rod. So we're going to go out here, we're going to check out this next motor. This motor also has something wrong, so I should probably learn from gambling on the last motor that I shouldn't do this, but it was a good deal. So we're going to go all the way out to Ohio and pick up this motor for a 4-hour trip. And hopefully this time we luck out and we can make one good motor out of these 2 separate motors. So stay tuned. Guys, we got the motor in the back of the truck, driving back home from Ohio right now. It looks good. Everything turned over, so it's all in one piece, so that's all a good sign. Hopefully we'll get it home. I won't be able to get out of the truck tonight because it's almost 8 o'clock now and I'm probably 200 miles away. So hopefully get out of the truck tomorrow, and then we'll get it on the stand, start digging into it and see what we got. But this is a much better situation than the last one, so cross your fingers. Okay guys, so we got the last motor in the truck outside. It's currently raining on it. I have it bagged up, but I want to get this engine off this stand. That's my daughter. I want to get this engine off the stand, and before I do that, I want to get the crank out and just get the rest of the motor down to the bare block. So we're going to strip this thing down, and I'm going to have my little cheerleader over here, and she's going to root me on while we get this done. So let's get after it. So this is the first time I've ever worked with any LS stuff. This is technically an LT generation motor. It's an L83 5.3 liter, but it's pretty neat. So if you're a small block guy like I am, and I work on, you know, older small block Chevys, there's two different style blocks. You have the pre-roller blocks where you use like a thrust button. Basically all it is like a nylon or a aluminum bushing that rides on the timing plate to set your cam thrust forward and back. And that's a kind of a weak design, never really liked it much. So the one motor that's in the truck now is a later generation one-piece rear main seal block with the roller provisions in it, which uses a retainer plate. What these Gen 5s is pretty neat is, so this is retained in here, but the neat thing is it actually has a thrust bearing right in the timing gear. So that right there is what sets your depth. That's actually a thrust bearing in there, so that provides positive oiling, I'm guessing, to the inside through those ports, which is probably part of the VVT. I'm not familiar with the VVT system, how it actuates, but that is definitely a high-speed thrust bearing. So pretty neat. I like that. This particular one shows a little bit of bluing on the surface, like burnishing, but it's not bad. So definitely reusable. I'm not sure if I will reuse it. I'm going to ditch the VVT. I have to research what it takes to do that, if you reuse any of these components or if you just go with a whole new timing set. But it's a neat setup. So let's get the rest of this pulled out. Oh, before we proceed, let me go over one other thing. So I'm sure this is very familiar to all you LS guys, to us SBC guys. It's a little different, but something new for the Gen 5 motor that's different than the Gen 4. Gen 4, your liners are machined and then pressed into the block and retained. Whereas on these Gen 5s, if you look, the casting is actually, the liner is cast into the block and then machine hung. I'm guessing this is like a cost savings because they don't have to probably do as many machining operations. They can just cast it in the pattern. But that's pretty trick. So the only thing with these bores is they don't think they're Siamese. They're not Siamese. I don't think so. I'll have to get a piece of welding wire down there. But that's just a little extra casting material here, and pretty thick webs here. So I think this is going to be a good sturdy block. Again, this isn't the actual one we're going to use. We're going to use the one in the truck, but same engine. This one's just good to go over. So next thing we'll do, pull the cam out. This cam has one wipe lobe, which we knew about when we got it. It was all the other stuff we didn't know about. But anywho, it worked out great because this is going to be a great mock-up block. That stuff out there, that motor seems like it's all together and legit, but we'll keep tearing this one down. Okay, lesson number 2. Make sure that when you're taking these Torx bolts out, that your Torx head bit is in pristine condition, because these are in here tight as hell. So I gotta drill this one out. It should come out pretty easy, but yeah, don't do that. So it's in there tight as hell. Use a fresh Torx bit. So if you have an L83, you need to be aware of this, or pretty much any Gen 5 motor. The DOD system, or displacement on demand, active fuel management, whatever you want to call it, on these motors is awful. If you can DOD delete them and put a cam in your motor, even if you just want to do a stock replacement cam, do it. Here is a DOD lifter, or a cam lobe that a DOD lifter was on, and it racked it. Basically, anything that had a DOD lifter on it on this camshaft is jacked. So moral of the story here, if you have one of these motors, that's a ticking time bomb. It's pretty much the worst feature on this entire engine. If it wasn't for that, you wouldn't be seeing these things near as much, but at least they're cheap, because when this goes bad, typically dealerships aren't even going to want to deal with it. They're just going to do a whole engine replacement. So then all of a sudden there's tons of these sitting on warranty. So that's a nice perk. Okay guys, so generally speaking, I would consider this crank like a 7.5 out of 10. The rods are just about perfect. There's no edges or anything like that. It feels real good. I'd run it right back in the truck as it is. The mains, I have a little, I mean, you can barely feel it. I don't think you can feel it with your fingernail. So it's not too bad. If you look at the main bearings, they're pretty good. There's a little bit of contact here. You can see it was starting to eat through the babbitt a little bit, or the coating. I don't know what style coating this is, but I would consider this like a 7.5. It definitely doesn't need turned. Ideally, you'd probably put it and polish it and just clean it up. But we're gonna give it probably the old school sloppy style polish job with shoestring. So we're going to do the shoestring polish job on this and see how it turns out. But this is crank number 1 in this motor. We'll see how crank number 2 looks in the other motor that's all together. So maybe the other one's better, but this one will definitely do. All right guys, so that's where we're going to end it off this week. We got the engine number 1 torn down. The only thing left upstairs here is the cylinder heads. I need to take the valves out of them and catalog them, get them all organized. Next episode, when you tune in, we're gonna get onto this boy. So this is another L83. This is the one that we drove out to Ohio for in this episode. And we're gonna do the teardown of this motor, see what's good, see what's bad, and see what else we need to buy. So for you guys not familiar with these are direct injected engines. We're not going to run direct injection on this project. We're actually going to go convert to a port fuel injection, and we're going to show you how we're going to do that. We're going to buy some trick parts and hopefully be able to get this thing fired up with different ECU management systems. So stay tuned. All that's coming up in the next episode. We'll see how many parts are damaged in this motor and what's good. So until next time, like and subscribe, and have a good day.